Is it sort of referenced in the film? Most of the 80s I was the black music editor at Billboard magazine. So I covered, from 81 to 89, I covered everything from Prince to the beginning of hip hop, Michael Jackson, and of course the transition that was going on with funk music. And even though I don't do, who writes, you can't really make a living anymore being a music critic, I sort of transitioned into doing nonfiction filmmaking as well as some fiction. I actually did a crazy movie with Chris Rock called CD4. Yeah. CD4 fans here, right? So we did our 20th anniversary, and that was like a film that, was about hip hop then, and strangely prophetic in some ways, actually. And so I still, this is actually the first full-length music doc I've done, which is kind of ironic since it's my background. And it was such an amazing experience because there are certain people, let's just go back and talk about Sly. We gotta talk about Sly. I mean, of all of, I got in the music game after his sort of weird disappearance, let's say. And I thought I'd never meet Sly. And I met everybody but Sly, of those greats. And it's a great story, actually. You got to thank Facebook. I was trying to find how do I find Sly, and I started doing. I can't. It'll never be finished unless I get something to Sly. Turns out his daughter, Lovina, who you see a couple of times, is on Facebook. So I said I started talking to her on Facebook. This is what I'm doing, blah 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 blah. And emails led to a phone call, and the phone call led to us going out to her apartment in Culver City, California. And he's sitting there with the crew. Is he gonna come? And I have this vivid image of Sly coming in, and he's kind of hungry and getting some pad thai. So I'm watching Sly eat pad thai. Wow, he's eating pad thai. I think I don't know if you noticed the outfit that he had on. I'm sure you noticed. He had like a one-piece. It's 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees. It's a hot day. He's got a one-piece, essentially a ski, jumpsuit, and in between cuts, because I'm getting hot, so of course. But so it's really, and there's so much stuff, I always want to go back and do a separate Sly thing because there's so much in this interview. We went a lot of other stuff in there that he's got this amazing point of view, and there's a brilliant. I think you see the brilliance. It's in his eyes, and his comments are there, and then there's these moments where he just kind of not there, or it flows back. So it was one of the most unique experiences of everyone there that I interviewed because you just didn't expect ever to get Sly. So that was a major event for me to have that time with him and to witness the brilliance that's still there.
Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, in the pink shirt.
So I want to ask about your meeting Sly. Were you in any way taken aback by his physical appearance, his health? There were audible gasps around me when you first saw him on the screen.
I've seen.
So I just want to repeat the question so everyone can hear. So when you first met Sly, were you a bit taken aback by his physical appearance and health?
Well, no, I've seen some images of him. I remember he did that brief appearance with the Grammys a couple of years ago. I kind of prepared. Like, it was a little outer than even I imagined. I'm not sure where he lives. He kind of showed, we were situated around his daughter's apartment. He came, we waited, and he is, it's funny about this, I really want to make sure that people understood how impactful he was. That's why you have all those guys holding up his albums, Arthur Baker's saying this is the greatest album ever, someone else is saying this is the greatest album ever. 3 people held 3 different albums in the movie to say this is the greatest album ever. That's how impactful he is on the generations that come after him. And unfortunately, because he hasn't been present, unlike Brown kind of continued working to the very end, people have forgotten about, they know Sly this out there, but the fact he's still a living impact on musicians. When Mike D talks about Sly, if you go back and listen to Paul's Boutique and some of those albums, there's so much of the ride going on those albums. So the impact of Sly cannot be overlooked, but it's been, I think, because Brown was present and P. Funk was still present, he's kind of a missing link to me. And so I really wanted to make sure we took time with him. And I even think if we go back and maybe put some more of Sly in, because I just think that he's a voice that we just haven't heard enough of. So that would be
there another question in the plaid shirt?
Yeah, it's another question about Sly. What's the story behind why he stopped making music?
He hasn't done it.
The question is, what is the story behind why Sly stopped making music?
He has not stopped making music. He still makes music. He just doesn't put it out. Actually, you know what's interesting? Those of you, there's actually a Funkadelic song that just came out called The Nas that he's on. But he's actually not singing, he's talking. He's, his background was as a radio DJ in the Bay Area. That's how he really became famous, and because of a lot of his connections. He was on, the radio during the swinging, Summer of Love and all that stuff in the Bay Area. So he's got a record out with George Clinton produced, where he's doing radio DJ power over a beat. You can find it on the internet now. And I think that's part of trying to get Sly back out there. I can't really speak to why he hasn't put music out, but he does still make music. He does it, he still records, but he just isn't. I think I saw him do a show maybe 3 years ago. He did a brief tour where he played New York, and it was amazing. He did Want Me to Stay, he did something, but his stamina, I don't know if, his stamina is just not there for a long period of time. I don't feel like the concentration. So I think he's reluctant to put a record out and then have to be expected to tour and all that stuff. I don't think he's there,
Do we have any questions on this side? Yes, in front?
Great film. How come Sugarfoot wasn't in there from Ohio Place?
We just couldn't get him. Sugar, he asked about Sugarfoot and how to play. Sugarfoot wasn't available when we were shooting, and then he passed away. Just literally, 2-3 months ago. It was very, very recent. So he was someone we were reaching out to. I mean, one of the sections of the film that I really wanted to get, it's kind of alluded to in Steve Harrington, is the question of funk singing. Yow! And I really wanted to have a section of that, but it's hard to do it without Sugarfoot, because he was really the progenitor of the most famous of those sounds, right? But everyone does that, Lionel Richie does that sound, and Maurice White does that sound. It was something that was a funk sound. So, I don't know, I don't think I can do it without Sugarfoot. In fact, it's really interesting. These guys are now probably pushing 70. So, we've had a lot of people have been passing away even while we were working on the film. So, I'm glad we got Sly, I'm glad we got George, I'm glad we got some of the, because, just to have them on record, So that's why we Sugarfoot, we just couldn't.
Okay, questions in the back. You have a hat on back there?
Question. Okay, probably the most expensive part was getting clearance for a lot of the clips. Were there any artists that donated or allowed their music to be played without a lot of expense?
Well, we want to put more,
Repeat the question.
when he asked me about the clips, I'm sorry about that. Clearing clips and challenging the clearing clips. But there's more stuff we want to put in that we weren't able to clear in time to really screen the film. So I challenged over the summer, because we really want this to be finished by fall, is to clear that additional stuff. We found amazing footage overseas, like there's a clip that I have to have, I don't know how much it's going to cost me, of James Brown and Bootsy in Rome at an Italian TV studio, and it's one of the best shots I've ever seen. Magnificent, it looks amazing. But trying to, Leslie Norville, who's here, is our producer. Leslie. Leslie's been trying to negotiate with the Italians. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. So, I think there will be more clips. It's just, when you're dealing with archival, there's so many different levels, especially with music, even more than any other thing, because you're dealing with the image of the film, like who owns the film. Then, do I have to clear the rights to the artist in the film? And then, do I have to clear the master use of the song? Then I have to clear the publishing. So, one clip of Bootsy and James Brown from 1971 requires maybe 4 different levels of negotiation. So one of the reasons I tried to rely on, I wanted the musicians to play. I think in America, I don't know how it's going on here in Canada, but in America, a lot of schools, they're not teaching kids how to play instruments. It's really a huge problem. And I really wanted to showcase people who could really play. That's why I wanted Nam to play. I wanted everyone, even Mike D, I wanted everyone to show that musicianship is a, is a soul messenger. That to create great new music, you still need to have some musicianship, some understanding of music. One more person that we got in the film that was really, I think a lot of people were surprised, and that's D'Angelo. In a strange way, D'Angelo is the Sly of the hip hop generation. In the sense that he made 2 amazing records, and he hasn't made an album since 2000. And this is the first interview he's done on camera since in about 10 years. And the reason we got him is that Alan Leeds, who's a really great, who comes up a few times in the film, is working with D'Angelo. D'Angelo has a new album that actually will come out in August. And so I was able to spend some time with him and get comfortable with him. And he's a phenomenal interview in the film. I mean, he really knows it backwards and forwards. And it was a joy to have him there. And I was like, please, you're ready to come back. You have the musicianship. You learned to play guitar, which you didn't do the first time around. Jesse Johnson, those of you who were fans of the Prince camp at the time, is his guitar teacher. So he gave him the lessons, and that's why he had the pink guitar, in fact. So, I mean, he's going to come back, and I'm very happy that we feel like we're going to be part of his revival back in the marketplace. I think he is a person who is a repository of so much of this tradition. He's been touring, he's going to come here.
Yes.
In a bit. You can see him, he can sing it, he can play it, he embodies the funk, and he's much more, what he's doing now is much more funk-oriented and soul-oriented. So I think it's even more in the direction of what the film is about, which is very around.
Okay, I'm sorry, we have time for one more short question because we have a tight turnaround. So, okay, yes, you.
I think as you thought, that was fantastic. That was incredible.
Oh man, thank you. I mean, I think it was better.
I'm very curious because you look at the evolution of a lot of this movement, where you see it going, like where the torch gets handed down from R&B and rap and funk now. Where do you see it going?
Well, there's 2 things. One of the things that, where's the direction, where's the torch being passed now? And I'll take 2 different things to that. One is that, funk in terms of, what's interesting that I've discovered more lately, though, but I included, it's been at the end of the film, is the fact that the jam band scene has become the new funk scene in a large respect. There's a place called Brooklyn Bowl in Brooklyn, which is sort of one of those spots where jam bands play. But, the Soul Rebels who played at the beginning of the film, all of the brass bands from New Orleans are on that circuit, and they're still playing funk. There's lots of great, there's a band called Galactic from New Orleans. Fantastic funk bands. All young white musicians, fantastic players. The drummer on that band is sick. He's sick. And there's a lot of that going on. Bernie Worrell, you see him perform, he plays with all young white musicians. So there's been this interesting transition where funk, to some degree, is following a bit of the path of jazz and blues in some respect, and it's becoming a very young white music on some level. And the other thing that's happening is that I think some of the most exciting music is coming out of Africa. And that I see a lot of interesting fusions of hip-hop, house music, etc. going on. So I do think the most interesting music coming out, the new funk, is some of the stuff that's being created out of this fusion of this music refracting off to North America and going back to Africa, and then coming back to us. I think this dialogue between the continent and here is really interesting. I think that's part of what is the new direction. When we finally finished the film, I just think we the Angelo fans give you one more little tidbit. He did a show in Brooklyn, which we shot, with, it's just Questlove and D'Angelo. It's like Black Stripes, okay? So it's D'Angelo on keyboards and Questlove on drums, and when the final film comes in, you'll see the 2 of them playing together. It's part of the great summary of the film. Fantastic. You see some of the clips online at OK Player. If you're an D'Angelo fan, get on it.